Hey there, Freedom Family. Back with another one. What is this flag? And what does it mean? Well, I'm here to at least tell you what it means to me. Gonna try to cut through all the propaganda and the lies. Probably what they're teaching your kids in school. Probably what they taught you in school. Basically, the Northerners are just, peace-loving hippies and just wonderful people versus the sexist, homophobic, racist, bigot Nazis, The same thing that they're basically doing today. And I believe we're in the second Civil War, but that'll be a different video, maybe coming down the road. But it's basically the same thing. I mean, if we had a second Civil War and we lost, I mean, can you only imagine what they'd be teaching your children and your grandchildren? I mean, it would be the same thing. And they say, history's written by the victor. And it's literally called his story. So, they get to make up the narrative. Do you think they would ever tell, what happens leading up to it, prior to the war? You think they would tell your kids how you were censored on social media, how you weren't allowed to speak, how you lost your jobs, how you're stripped of your rights? You lose everything. And then when you finally say, okay, I've had enough, you hit your breaking point. You hit the point where you're like, you're ready to fight. And then they call you terrorists. They go, look, see, I told you, they're bad. We have to do this. That's how they justify it. So again, they, in history, they paint them with a certain label and say this is bad and, this is what they stood for. And I'm not denying that there wasn't slavery or anything like that, and I don't support slavery. But that's not everything the South was fighting for. Just 100 years prior, their fathers and grandfathers were fighting the Revolutionary War. To get away from big government, from a tyrannical government. Taxing them to death and, telling them how to live. That's what they separated for. And then once again, they had big government on their backs. The three-letter agencies were targeting them. Any parallels to what you see happening today. They were putting tariffs on their products, taxing their land, pushing them to the brink. And, they were fighting to defend their home, their country. But they won't tell you that part. There's a YouTuber on here called the Rageaholic. He did a video a couple months back, and it was a really good explanation. I think it was called Lincoln is a Tyrant, or it was something like that. But if you look up the Rageaholic Civil War video he did like a month or two ago, you'll find it. And it was a lot more in depth, than I can do here. I have a smaller audience, No one's going to sit here and listen to me talk about it for, an hour and a half and go through every, bit by bit. But, there was a lot more to it, As there always is, when two fights are going on, If you ever watched like a Judge Judy or one of those judge shows, a lot of the times you can see one side of the argument from one side, and you can see the side from the other, The third person, view, you can see, where it's coming from. But, they don't tell both sides. They just one side good, one side bad. The other side didn't have any part to do with any of it, right? And then ultimately, they make the decision that, you got to split. And recently, Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few other people have been talking about a divorce. I think Colonel West in Texas was talking about it even before this. I mean, it's been talked about, years and years now. People are like, this country's splitting apart. The cohesion. The best thing I heard was, it's two separate countries occupying the same land. And that's pretty much where we're at. Like I said, I'll touch into the second Civil War maybe here in another video. And I might review some Civil War videos as well. There was one video, I try to skip movies that are based from the Northern's perspective, because they're usually really slanted and full of propaganda. But there's this movie Glory with Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman and some other big name actors, and it's from the Northern perspective, the 1st Black Regiment, and it actually shows the true North. It's not full of a lot of propaganda, but the war is already a year or two in, I believe, and the 1st Black Regiment comes in. And, the Union soldiers weren't even having it. They were deflecting posts. They were going AWOL, saying, we don't want anything to do with this. They were calling them the word. We'll just say it like that. And, they were racist themselves, and they had nothing to do for it. That's what they weren't fighting for that. They weren't fighting for their freedom. And then the same with the South. Like, there's people there that were like, they weren't slave owners. I think 2% were slave owners. They were basically the elites. Most people there were just, again, fighting against a tyrannical, overreaching government, protecting their home. So yeah, I might do that in some future videos. I mean, give me a comment, if there's something else you want to discuss. And I mean, just look at this car, though. I always love this. They canceled it now, Dukes of Hazzard, General Lee. Pretty sweet. What we got here under this hood? Dang, is that a Hemi? Shout out if you know where that's from. If you know where that's from, I guess put that in the comments and I'll give you a pinned comment. Alright, well, I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.